Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prasanath Prabhu, are you there?
Hare Krishna. So can you hear me? Is my voice audible?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, your voice is audible.
Thank you so much.
Prabhu, will it be possible to share the screen? Because I'm on my mobile.
Yes, Prabhu. So I will share the this thing for you. So before you get started, I'll just take this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you for this wonderful Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya endeavor from ICC. So today we have His Grace Ram Govinda Ratisha Prabhu. So I jointly welcome Prabhu for the Sunday morning program. Sorry, for this morning program. So the topic that he will be doing is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 27th chapter and 24th verse. So without taking much time, over to you, Prabhu. I will share the verse. Welcome and please deliver the nectar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you to all the devotees who have assembled here. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam panghum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyamishwaram Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another session of Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So I hope all of you have been having blissful experiences. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. I would like to share whatever little I know, although I'm sure that all the assembled Vaishnavas here know much better than me. But nevertheless, I have been given this service, and I want to accept this opportunity with with all gratitude and respect to all the Vaishnavas who are assembled here. So, Prabhu, can we have the verse displayed on the screen, today's verse? I hope I'm audible to everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
So we'll start with today's verse. Today's verse is the 27th verse of the 4th canto. The 27th chapter of 4th canto and 24th verse. Okay. So I'll just recite the verse, and maybe if anyone wants to repeat, you can repeat. Rishabhum yavananam tvam prane virepsitam patim sankalpas tvai bhutanam kritakila narishyate. Rishabham yavananam tvam vrune virepsitam patim sankalpas tvai bhutanam kritakila narishyate. Does anyone want to repeat?
Yes, Prabhu. Srimad Bhagavatam 4.27, verse number 24.
Okay. Yes, Mataji.
Rishabham yavananam tvam vrune virepshitam patim sankalpasya tvai bhutanam kruta kila narishati. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else? Anybody else wants to recite? Prabhu, for some reason, there's some black thing which is coming on my screen. I'm not able to see the entire screen. There's some kind of, I don't know if, I don't think it's a problem here, but not sure if it's there on the screen share.
Even we have it, Prabhu.
Yeah, because I'm not able to see. I'm only able to see the verse, but
Almost
like
I think there is some chat window open. I think you may have to close that, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Actually, there is nothing open here on the thing where I'm sharing. I'm not too sure why that is
That's
happening.
okay.
Even I can see it on my mobile. I'll just try to figure out if I can remove that.
That's okay, no problem. Actually, what you can do is, Prabhu, you can just scroll up.
Yeah, I'll do that.
The first half of the screen is okay. The right half, the second half, the second half is that to the right side of the screen is not visible. Anyway, so anyone else wants to repeat? Any Prabhu's Mataji has recited. Anyone else wants to recite? Rishabham yavananam tvam prane virepsitam patim sankalpastvai bhutanam kritak kila narishyati. Anyone wants to repeat? If not, we can continue. Okay. So we'll go to the meanings of this particular shloka. Rishabham. Rishabham is the best. Yavananam, of the untouchables. So the best among the untouchables. Rishabham yavananam. Twam, you. Vrune, I accept. Veera, O great hero. Veera, O great hero. Ipsitam, desired. Patim, husband. Sankalpa, the determination. Tvai, unto you. Bhutanam, of all living entities. Krita, if done. Kila, certainly. Na, never. Rishyati, becomes baffled. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, anyone wants to read the translation, or can I read? Okay, I'll read the translation. Approaching the king of the Yavanas, Kalakanya addressed him as a great hero, saying, Touchables, I'm in love with you, and I want you as my husband. I know that no one is baffled if he makes friends with you. So the words purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So the words Yavananam Rishabham refers to the king of the Yavanas. The Sanskrit word Yavana or Mlecha applies to those who do not follow the Vedic principles. According to the Vedic principles, one should rise early in the morning, take bath, chant Hare Krishna, offer Mangalarti to the deities, study Vedic literature, take prasada, and engage in dressing and decorating the deities. One must also collect money for the temple expenditures. Or if one is a householder, he must go to work in accordance with the prescribed duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. In this way, one should live a life of spiritual understanding, and this is the Vedic way of civilization. One who does not follow all these rules and regulations is called a Yavana or a Mlecha. One should not mistakenly think that these words refer to certain classes of men in other countries. There is no question of limitation according to nationalism. Whether one lives in India or outside of India, he is called a Yavana or a Mlecha if he does not follow the Vedic principles. One who does not actually follow the hygienic principles prescribed in the Vedic rules and regulations will be subjected to many contagious diseases. Because the students in this Krishna consciousness movement are advised to follow the Vedic principles, they naturally become hygienic. If a person is Krishna conscious, he can work like a young man if he is 75 or 80 years old. Thus, if a person is Krishna conscious, he can work like a young man even if he is 75 or 80 years old. Thus, the daughter of Kala, time, cannot overcome a Vaishnava. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami engaged in writing Chaitanya Charitamrita when he was very old, yet he presented the most wonderful literature about the activities of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami began their spiritual lives at a very old age. That is, after they retired from their occupations and family lives. Yet, they presented many valuable literatures for the advancement of spiritual life. This is confirmed by Srila Srinivasa Acharya, who praised the Goswamis in this way. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunau Sadharma Samsthapakau Lokanam Hitakarinau Tribhuvane Manyau Sharanyakarau Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Nandena Mattalikau Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghu Yugau Shri Jiva Gopalakau. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Dasa Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Thus, Jara, the effects of old age does not harass a devotee. This is because a devotee follows the instructions and determination of Narada Muni. All devotees are in the disciplic succession stemming from Narada Muni. Worship the deities according to Narada Muni's direction, namely the Narada Pancharatra or the Pancharatrika Vidhi. A devotee follows the principles of Pancharatrika Vidhi as well as Bhagavata Vidhi. Bhagavata Vidhi includes preaching work, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, the hearing and chanting of the glories of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Pancharatrika Vidhi includes Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. Because a devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narada Muni, he has no fear of old age, disease, or death. Apparently, a devotee may grow old, but he is not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. Consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death, as a common man is fearful of death. When Jara or old age takes shelter of a devotee, Kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death, he is going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing the screen. So this purport is very elaborate, and Srila Prabhupada has explained it in such a fantastic manner. The purport itself is self-explanatory. There is nothing nothing new that we can add here. But I'd like to share some points, and basically, I'd like to start from the background of this particular chapter. Okay, so here we are discussing about Prachina Barhishat and his conversation with Narada Muni. So Prachina Barhishat is coming in the lineage of Prithu Maharaj. And Prachina Barhishat had 10 sons called the Prachetas. So when the Prachetas went to the forest, actually before entering into Grihastha life or householder life, it was always recommended that one should take the blessings of Vaishnavas and one should take especially blessings of the Supreme Lord. So Prachetas were sent to the forest by Prachina Barhishat to perform austerities before they accept the responsibilities of kingdom and householder life, Grihastha life. So as they were going to the forest, they found a lake in the forest. And from that lake, Lord Shiva and his associates came out. So Shiva instructed them on how to worship, knowing that these Prachetas are going to worship Lord Krishna or Vasudeva before they enter into householder life. Lord Shiva thought that he should give them instructions, like a guru instructs his disciples on how to perform devotional service. Similarly, Lord Shiva instructed the Prachetas on how to perform devotional service and how to please Lord Vasudeva. So there comes the context where we have the discussions of Rudra Gita, and all the Rudra Gita. Basically, the Prachetas sang the glories of. Basically, the Rudra Gita was sang by the Prachetas, when they were worshipping underwater for almost 10,000 years. So they performed a lot of austerities. So we can understand here that in the Vedic age, we can see that the dependence on the Lord is so high that even for a simple activity where somebody is moving from brahmacharya ashram to grihastha ashram, or somebody is planning to take up a householder life, he has so much of he actually seeks the blessings of the Lord. So here again, prachetas are actually seeking the blessings of the Lord, and Lord Shiva actually helps them perform austerities, and he also explains the Rudra Gita to them. So meanwhile, while the prachetas are completely occupied in this activity of performing all these austerities, their father Prachina Parishad, he is very busy with lot of karma kandi activities, which is activities that he is performing for expecting some fruitive results. And he's so aggressive in performing, or he's so eager to perform fruitive activities that he does not have time. There is not much space between his activities. He's always ready. He completes one yagya, and before the completion of one yagya, he's always prepared with the next yagya. So he just switches over quickly. Just like, in the modern age, we see that people who want to earn a lot of money, they do multiple things at the same time. So they manage too many businesses. They manage different kinds of things so that they can multiply their wealth. So similarly, here also we can see Prachina Parishad was planning so much that he had made so many plans, so many rituals at the same time, and he was shifting continuously. Now, as usual, on one side, the Prachina Parishad's children, they are performing austerities to please Lord Vishnu, and on the other side, their father Prachina Parishad has completely lost direction, and he is completely engaged in fruitive activities. So he is working for getting some results, whereas his sons are working to impress or to glorify the Supreme Lord and take the Supreme Lord's blessings. So seeing the condition of Prachina Parishad, Narada Muni becomes very compassionate of Prachina Parishad and asks him the reason why Prachina Parishad performs so many karma kandi activities, which neither gives permanent results nor does it give permanent happiness. So performing any activity, the final goal should be it should give us some kind of a permanent result, or it should give us some kind of permanent happiness. But here Narada Muni could not see why Prachina Parishad was working so hard for activities which will neither give permanent happiness nor does it give him permanent results. So Prachina Parishad, again, here the qualities of Prachina Parishad are also mentioned in this chapter, where Prachina Parishad shows great qualities and shows great respect. Although he's the king, he shows great respect to Narada Muni, and he is not arrogant. So he when Narada Muni approaches Prachina Parishad, very humbly, submissively, he replies to Narada Muni in a very respectful way. And he says that his intelligence is entangled. Who says? It is basically Prachina Parishad who's telling Narada Muni that my intelligence is entangled in karmic activities. And hence, I don't know what is the direction. I don't know what should I do. So I am busy with these activities because my intelligence is occupied with the fruitive activities. I want to get some results from all the activities that I do, being a king. And then he seeks the guidance of Narada Muni so that he can come out of this entanglement. He wants to know. He is very eager to know, but he does not know what to do. So he requires the guidance of Narada Muni. So we can see that in this reference, Prahlad Maharaj has quoted in the 7th canto, or Prahlad Maharaj says in the 7th canto, that some people cannot understand what is the goal of their life. In fact, most of the people in Kali Yuga can't understand the goal of their life. We see that, when we conduct a preaching program and we invite so many people. Recently, we did one of the programs, and we had invited almost 150 to 175 people, and they were some of them were devotees, about 25, and the remaining 125 odd people were actually outsiders. They were people who have not practiced Krishna consciousness. Basically, somebody who's getting introduced for the first time. And during the program, first we explained the necessity or the requirement for practicing bhakti, and we engaged them in kirtan. We also had arranged for prasadam and so many things. But at the same time, when we gave the japamala to them and asked them to chant, they all chanted there. But at the end of the program, when we asked them, how many of you, if you are committed to continue chanting, then we can give this japamala to you for free. So you don't have to pay anything. You can take the Japamala for free, provided you're showing some commitment towards chanting, that you can chant at least a minimum number of rounds every day. If you are confident of that, then we'll give this Japamala to you for free. And you will be surprised to know that just one or two people in the entire assembly of 125 people, it was just one or two people who actually took the Japamala, and the remaining 122, 123 Japamalas, we got it back. So we can just imagine how rare is bhakti and how rare is the opportunity for self-realization. And people are like Prachina Parishad, they are misguided. At least Prachina Parishad had an opportunity to hear from Narada Muni. But here we can see that, neither is Narada Muni available to them, but still as a ISKCON movement, we are trying to push very hard this concept of bhakti, and we want them to make their life successful. But somehow the people are not interested. They want immediate results. So just like Prachina Parishad, all the other living entities around us, basically this is an understanding for all of us that we should not be like Prachina Parishad, and hence Srimad Bhagavatam has given us this particular pastime. Now, so Prahlad Maharaj, basically he's telling that in the 7th canto, he says that Nate vidhu swartha gatim hi Vishnu durashaya ye bahir artha manina andha yatandher upaniya manas te pishatantrayam urudamni baddha. So Nate vidhu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. So swartha gatim, swartha means what is my ultimate self-interest. So nobody knows. We all have, Srila Prabhupada says that we have to be selfish. Selfish for what? That ultimately, if a selfish man, he expects some to be selfish, then you should know what is the motive behind being selfish. So here in this verse, Prahlad Maharaj says that selfish interest you should know. What is the ultimate height of being selfish? So here he says, Nate vidhu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. That they should know that if you are a selfish person, you should know, even Srila Prabhupada says that if you are a selfish person, you should know that the highest goal of your life is approaching the Supreme Lord. So there is nothing being more selfish than this. So you are in the topmost platform of being selfish, or you are having the best quality of being selfish if you are approaching the Supreme Lord. So Nate vidhu swartha gatim hi Vishnu durashaya ye bahir artha maninaha. So durashaya ye bahir artha maninaha. So artha, we all know that, we all want to enjoy material sense objects. So durashaya, the person is very ambitious to enjoy material sense objects. So one, he does not know what is a selfish interest. Selfish interest, as per Shastra, is to approach Lord Vishnu. Now he does not know about that. So then what does he know? He knows that, okay, there are so many things, material things that I can enjoy. So now he's very ambitious to enjoy the external sense objects. Through his senses, he wants to engage with the external sense objects. Andha yathandher upayani manas. Upaniya manas. So andha yathandher upaniya manas means just as a blind man leads other blind men. Basically, it is just materialistic following. We see that somebody is becoming rich, somebody is trying to make a lot of money. We also want to follow those steps. Nowadays, we see that there is a flood of motivational speakers. Everybody is telling how to make 10 lakhs, how to make 1 crore, how to make 10 crores. There is no limit. And everyone is running behind them. They want to choose some path. They pay him some kind of money just to make sure they feel that, by paying that money or by getting into some kind of course or hearing from someone who has made a lot of money, they can also make money. But we have to understand that prarabdha karma is fixed. You cannot make anything more. But still, we are in pursuit trying to make more, and we will not get that. Even if we get, it will not stay with us because it is not destined. So, andha yathandir, upaniya manas. Just as a blind man will lead another set of blind men. Similarly, in this material world, the materialistic people are leading another set of materialistic people. So the leader in the society is showing an example where he is setting the wrong example. He is showing that materialism is the way of life. And the others are also following him, thinking that just like how he has become happy, we will also become happy. Te pisha tantrayam urudamni baddha. So and in this way, what's happening? Te pisha tantrayam urudamni baddha. So we are in the month of Kartik Mas, and we recite the Damodarashtakam, and in that we say that these, especially the word baddha, damna, damne, all these things come. So what does it mean? Bound the materialist is bound by the ropes, the strong ropes of material nature. So here, just like how Yashoda is binding Krishna, and she wants to bind Krishna, she out of affection. But here, the materialist is trying to bind himself with the ropes of the three modes of material nature, and which are very tough to get out of. So once you entangle yourself in the modes of material nature, without the blessings of Vaishnavas or without the Shastras, without Guru Krishna, it is not possible to come out of these modes of material nature. They entangle you and make sure that we stay here life after life. So here, Prachina Parishad, coming back to the example of Prachina Parishad was focusing very hard, and Narada Muni had seen that he's focusing on the Purusharthas, basically the Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. But he missed the most important point. He was following Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha was missing. So basically, he was following the path, or he was following the duty of, as a king, what are his duties? He was following those duties. But the output of that, the expectation of the duties that was that he wanted to get economic prosperity, or he wanted some pleasure. Basically, economic prosperity means Artha, and pleasure is Kama. So, but he was not thinking about moksha. There was no thought process about moksha. So persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life, and who have therefore accepted their leader as a blind man, get attached to external sense objects. So when people who are observing Prachina Parishad, they will also get a sense of understanding that we have to do all activities for expecting some result. So that's the reason why Narada Muni approached Prachina Parishad, and he was trying to explain to him that he has to cut the knots of material bondage. And for that reason, this entire chapter was discussed. But again, this is a very allegorical explanation, wherein Narada Muni is not directly referring to him. He gives an example of he says that you're occupied. He wants to indirectly tell Prachina Parishad that you are not on the right path. So again, in this particular chapter, there is a verse where it says that Griheshu Kuta Dharmeshu Utradhara Dhanardhati Naparam Vindate Modho Hamyan Samsara Vartmashu. There's a verse, the 25th chapter, 6th verse. It says that Griheshu Kuta Dharmeshu. So here, the duties of the person is engaged in false occupational duties or family maintenance. Putra Dara Dhanarthadhi. Putra Dara Dhana Artha Dihi. So he says, sons, wife, wealth. He thinks that these are if he satisfies these people, that is the goal of life. So these false occupational duties of family maintenance, trying to satisfy children, wife, wealth, or trying to acquire more wealth, thinking that these things will make me happy, is the false occupational duty. It does not give permanent happiness, but we are in pursuit of that. Naparam Vindate Modho. So Modho means, Prabhupada says Modho is a rascal. So the meaning of the word Modha is a rascal. And the rascal does not achieve transcendence. He is just running behind these things, trying to satisfy his wife, trying to satisfy his children, trying to acquire more wealth. And in the process, he thinks he's doing so much of family maintenance, and he feels so proud and satisfied that I'm taking care of my family. And the rascal does not achieve transcendence. And this I'm not saying. Srila Prabhupada said that Naparam Vindate Modho Ramyan Samsara Vartmashu. And in this way, he is entangled and he keeps wandering in this material existence, in birth after birth, in bodies after bodies. He keeps roaming around with the same expectation. So we have to understand that Narada Muni is now trying to enlighten Prachina Parishad. Narada Muni is telling an allegorical story of Puranjana, and Puranjana here refers to basically the conditioned living entity. So Pura and Jana, basically Puranjana. Pura is the city, and Jana is a resident of the city. So he gives an allegorical story, which means that he gives an example to show that Prachina Parishad is leading a life like this, but he's not directly telling to the king. So basically, here when we hear this pastime, we should equate Prachina Parishad to Puranjana. So Puranjana is the person or an individual who lives in the city of 9 gates. Or basically, it's the conditioned soul which lives in the body, which has 9 holes. And also we can see that in Bhagavad Gita, there is a reference which says, Sarva Karmani Manasa Sannyasyaste Sukham Vashi Navadware pure dehi naiva kurvan na karayan. So when the embodied soul is being controlled by his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides in the city of 9 gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. So basically the city of 9 gates is our human body, and the person, the resident here is Puranjana, or the conditioned soul is the resident of this human body. And here there is also another reference where it says that Navadware pure dehi hamso lelyate bahi vashi sarvasya lokasya sthavarasya charasya cha. So here in this particular verse it says that Navadware pure dehi hamso lelyate bahi vashi sarvasya lokasya sthavarasya charasya cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of living entity, is the controller. So we have to understand that there are two Puranjanas. One Puranjana is the conditioned soul which lives in the body of 9 gates. Then there is one more Puranjana. The Supreme Lord is also referred as Puranjana in Shastra. That's the verse which I said just now. Navadware pure dehi hamso lelyate bahi vashi sarvasya lokasya sthavarasya charasya cha. So in this verse it says that the Supreme Lord is also residing there. It's not just the conditioned soul is residing in the body. The Supreme Lord is also residing in this body, or in this place which is made of, which has 9 gates. And the 9 gates consists of 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, and the anus and the genitals. So these are the 9 gates of the body, and there are 2 personalities residing here. And the 2 personalities, Shveteshvatara Upanishad says, these 2 personalities are very eager for satisfying themselves. But the Lord is very eager to, the Lord's pleasure is to get the devotee back, whereas the devotee's pleasure, whereas the individual's pleasure is, we're not talking about devotee. So the Lord's eagerness is to bring back the individual or the conditioned soul back to him, make him a devotee and take him back. That is the eagerness of the Lord. That is the self-interest of the Lord. So see, the Lord is so merciful that his self-interest is to get back the soul which is away from him. So on the other hand, the conditioned soul is trying to satisfy himself by seeing what are the other kinds of enjoyment which are available, where he does not have to surrender to the Lord, or he does not have to take instructions or follow anyone. He wants to be independent and free. So the Lord is eagerly waiting to relieve all the problems of the jiva, but the jiva is not interested. So here, this is the meaning of Puranjana, a person or an individual who is residing in the gates of, in the body which has 9 gates, which is the human body, and another Puranjana is the Lord, Supreme Lord himself, who wants to get back this person, who wants to remove him from this entanglement, remove him from this suffering, but the person does not seem to be interested. So Puranjana is also called as Bhurishrava. So Bhurishrava means somebody who is very famous all over the world for his activities. So Puranjana is also called as Bhurishrava. So who is this famous person who is famous all over the world? It is basically the conditioned soul. He does a lot of activities to make sure that he gets a lot of fame, recognition, and glory. So in short, the conditioned soul does so many activities to become famous, and he tries very hard to satisfy himself. So Puranjana has a friend. So I told you about Puranjana, and this Puranjana has a friend who's Avigyata. So the second Puranjana, the first Puranjana is the conditioned soul. The second Puranjana is Avigyata, also the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is a real friend of the Jivatma, or the living entity, because he accompanies this individual wherever he goes. You just see the conditioned soul is trying to become happy by satisfying his family, satisfying his children, by acquiring wealth. He's trying to satisfy himself, but he's not, finally, it does not, neither is it permanent nor is it giving him happiness. And on the other side, the Lord is accompanying him, trying to remind him life after life that these things will not give you happiness. Still, the conditioned soul is not interested. So for that reason, Narada Muni is giving this allegorical story so that Puranjana understands, sorry, not Puranjana, basically Puranjana means Prachina Parishad. So Prachina Parishad should understand, after listening to this story of Puranjana, that this body is temporary, the happiness here is temporary, the wife and children and all the relationships here are temporary. So we should exit out of it quickly. And the Lord has made an arrangement. But if we don't use the 6 senses, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses and the other, and the sense objects, if we don't use it in the service of the Lord, then we get entangled. So out of so many lakhs of species, we get a human life. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 19th chapter, text 138, Ete Brahmanda Bhari, Ananta Jiva Gana, Chaurasi Laksha Yonite, Karaye Brahmana. This verse you can see that it says, Ete Brahmanda Bhari, and Ananta Jiva Gana, Chaurasi Laksha Yonite, Karaye Brahmana. Brahmana. So here it says that in this universe, there are Brahmanda Bhari, this entire Brahmanda is filled, this universe is filled with limitless living entities. And it is into 84 lakh species. There are different 84 lakh species, and the living entities are spread all over this Brahmanda, and all are wandering within this universe. That is the meaning of this verse. So when we are wandering within this universe, out of the causeless mercy of the Lord, we get one human form. After so many cycles of birth and death, finally we come to this human form of human form of life. And here, the conditioned soul actually has a very good opportunity to come out of the cycle of birth and death. But what he does, Puranjana, or the conditioned soul, which is residing in the body, marries Puranjani. So the Puranjani is material intelligence, and the material intelligence has many bodyguards, and those bodyguards are nothing but the 5 knowledge acquiring senses and the 5 basically the activities of those 5 knowledge acquiring senses, which is eyes, ears, mouth, skin, and nose. So eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and skin. And each of these senses are doing some particular activity, has to do some particular activity, which is sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. So these are the 10 bodyguards of Puranjani. And Puranjani has one more bodyguard, which is the 11th bodyguard. And that is basically the life air or the pranavayus. There are different types of pranavayus. And those 5 types of pranavayus are also accompanying Puranjani. So the conditioned soul, Puranjana, is married to Puranjani, and he's basically entangled in enjoying these 5 senses or getting information using the eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and skin. And that information, he's using it for his own sense gratification, for his own happiness. Whereas the position of the Lord, that is the Puranjana, which is the conditioned soul. What is the position of the Lord? The position of the Lord is, for millions and millions of years, the Supreme Lord has been patiently waiting for us. One would have actually, if it would have been us, we cannot wait beyond a point of time. We feel that, okay, how long can I wait? And we give up hope. But still, the Lord has not hope. Lord has not lost hope. We might lose hope, after we may see for a few hours. For example, we are waiting for someone, and if that person does not turn up, we wait for 1 or 2 hours. After that, we give up. But see, the Supreme Lord, he does not give up. He knows that this jiva will come back to me someday. And for that reason, he accompanies this jiva wherever he goes. So in the Mundaka Upanishad and in the Shveteshvatara Upanishad, it is mentioned very clearly that these are 2 birds. The 2 Puranjanas, or basically the soul and the super soul. These 2 Puranjanas are sitting in the same body, just like there are 2 birds. The explanation is given in Mundaka Upanishad and Shveteshvatara Upanishad that these 2 birds are sitting on the same tree. And the eating bird, there is one bird which is very eager in eating things or getting some fruits. So that bird is completely engrossed in all material activities. Always there is, you would have seen that the birds are very there's so much of anxiety in them. They don't sit at one point, at one place, and they don't relax there. They are so much anxious. So there is one bird which is like that, and the other bird which is sitting is actually the Supreme Lord. He is not anxious. He's very eager. He's waiting when this person will turn towards me. But the Upanishads and the Shveteshvatara Upanishad and the Mundaka Upanishad says that the other bird is not interested in turning towards the Supreme Lord, the second bird which is sitting on the tree. So he continues suffering in this material life. So basically, what we are trying to say here is that Puranjana has a very good opportunity, or basically Prachina Parishad, being a king, has a very good opportunity to get rid of all these material miseries. But he has to make the right choices. But we see here that Puranjana, he was, as I told earlier, that Puranjana was only interested in following dharma to get artha and to satisfy artha, to get artha and to satisfy kama. But the objective of getting moksha was not at all in his mind. And Puranjana was very attached to his wife, Puranjani, and he had 1,100 sons and 110 daughters. And when you have a very large family, when you have a lot of wealth, obviously all your children, they try to, they want to get a share of it. And these children actually become plunderers of his wealth. And in due course of time, Puranjana becomes old. And during Puranjana's old age, he gets attacked by a Gandharva king called Chandavega. So here Chandavega, now we are talking about an allegorical story. So Puranjana is the conditioned soul, and conditioned soul lives in a body. But this conditioned soul cannot live in the body, in the temporary material body for a long time. So then he gets attacked by Chandavega. Chandavega represents the time factor. So as in this human life, maybe we live for 70, 80 years. We don't know. Maybe 20 years, 30 years. We don't know. But the time factor diminishes everything. When the child is born, he has hair, looks very attractive. Everybody wants to serve the child. But as the child starts growing, nobody wants to serve. Because, now we feel that the child can manage itself. And as a child, same child, after many years, when it becomes old, then the family members are very eager to get rid of that old man. So similarly, Puranjan's condition also is the same. Puranjan gets attacked during his old age, gets attacked by Chandavega. So as time passes by, Puranjan gets attacked by old age. So old age enters. So one of Puranjani's servants is I told you that Puranjani had 11 servants. And Puranjani's one of the servants is the Pranavayus, the 5 life airs which are in the body. So in the Mundaka Upanishad, it is said that Esho Nur Atma Chetasa Veditavyo Yasmin Prana Panchadha Samvivesha Pranes Chittam Sarvamo Vibhavatyesha Esho Nur Atma Chetaso Veditavyo. The soul is atomic in size, perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating on 5 kinds of air, and the 5 kinds of air are prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. So these are the 5 life airs which carries the soul and which places it in the heart of is situated within the heart of the devotee or any individual who is a conditioned living entity. The soul travels through these 5 life airs and it is situated in the heart, and it spreads its influence throughout the body, basically the consciousness. And when the soul is purified out of its contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. This is what Mundaka Upanishad says. So here Narada Muni is trying to remind all these things to Prachina Parishad. Okay, so Chandavega is a time factor, as Prachina Parishad or Puranjana. Now the example is given as Puranjana, but he's reminding Prachina Parishad. So Puranjana is growing old. As time passes by, Puranjana is growing old, and the daughter of and Chandavega is attacking Puranjana, which means old age is attacking the conditioned soul. And this old age, Chandavega is a time factor, and Puranjana is a conditioned soul. So time in this human body is passing by 10, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. The time is passing. And as this Chandavega is approaching, in the sense, this time factor is, as it elapses, slowly old age comes. And this old age is nothing but the daughter of Chandavega or the time factor. So she is called as Kalakanya. And Kalakanya is the old age. Now, if somebody says that, you have to get old, nobody in this world says that I want to be old. So Kalakanya is actually a personification of old age. Basically, she's a representative of old age. So nobody wants to marry old age. If somebody asks you, do you want to grow old? No, everyone wants to be young. So Kalakanya is that personified form of old age. And nobody wants to become old. So nobody is marrying Kalakanya. So Kalakanya was looking for a proper husband. And nobody is marrying her. So she approaches Narada Muni and she asks Narada Muni because Narada Muni is a brahmachari. So she approaches Narada Muni and asks him if he can give her shelter. But Narada Muni refuses. And for that, Kalakanya, she curses Narada Muni and she says that you will not remain at one place because you didn't give shelter to me. You yourself will not remain at any place. That's the reason Narada Muni keeps traveling in all the universes. So after this Kalakanya or old age, she gets rejected by Narada Muni. When this personified factor of old age or personified old age in the form of Kalakanya gets rejected by Narada Muni, she approaches Bhaya. Okay, again, Bhaya is also a personified as the king of Yavanas. In this verse, we see that she approaches Yavanas. Now, today's verse, we are seeing that who Kalakanya approaches the king of Yavanas, which is Bhaya, fear, who accepts her as her sister and asks her to marry Rajvara. Rajvara is nothing but fever. So there is old age. So Chandavega is a time factor. There is Puranjana. Puranjana is the conditioned soul. This conditioned soul, spends time in this human body, the body of 9 gates. And then the time factor does not allow the conditioned soul to stay in the body for long. And as time passes by in this body, slowly Kalakanya or old age attacks this conditioned soul living in a temporary body. And she is married. She has been accepted by fear. That is Bhaya, the king of Yavanas, has accepted her as her sister, and she is married to Prajvara, fear. So at the time of old age, fear and fever, these are two things which at the time of death, when we are nearing death, these are two symptoms of death where the temperature in the body increases. We see that, when the soul leaves the body, after that, the person's body becomes very cold. That means the temperature in the body has gone out. So what was that? This Prajvara, the fever, the Bhaya, that fear of dying, Kalakanya, the old age, together they all attack Puranjana, the conditioned soul. So Chandavega, Kalakanya, Bhaya, and Prajvara, they all attack the conditioned soul. And after they attack, there is always, whenever there is attack, there is always a resistance. So the 5 pranavayus, which is the 5-hooded serpent, that pranavayu tries to resist or fight back. But over a period of time, they lose their capability to fight because the body has become weak, and they have to take support of the body. So the body has become weak because Chandavega is acting against it. That is the factor of time is acting against the body. Then there is Kalakanya, the factor of old age. Body is becoming weak. Then there is Bhaya, fear that I'm going to lose this body, the attachment that is causing a lot of fear. And after that, there is also very unfavorable conditions within the body, which means the fever, Rajvara. All of them are attacking the life airs and dragging the life airs out of the body. So that is Puranjana's condition. And Puranjana at this junction where his soul is getting dragged out from this body, at that point of time he remembers Puranjani. And because he remembers Puranjani, in the next life he gets a body of a female, and he becomes the princess of Vidarbha city, and he is called he who was Puranjana in last life, because at the time of death he remembers Puranjani, his wife. And initially we were discussing that Puranjana was so attached to his wife, wealth, to his children, and see the consciousness over a period of time has developed in such a way that at the time of old age, Puranjana remembers his wife, Puranjani, and because of that, he becomes Vidarbhi, the princess of Vidarbha city. So the lesson here is that Puranjana forgot to attain moksha, dharma, artha, kama. So he was more engaged in fulfilling his occupational duties to get artha, to satisfy kama, and to get artha. But he forgot that there is something higher beyond this temporary satisfaction. He should also inquire about why am I existing? What is the goal of my life? These were very important questions that he missed to ask. And because of that, in the next life, again, he has to take a birth based on his consciousness. So Puranjana becomes Vidarbhi in the next life because he was thinking about his wife at the time of death. So in this way, we can see that the Shastras say that we have in this conditioned soul has 2 bodies. One is the Pravritti Marga and the Nivritti Marga. So Pravritti Marga means the path of sense enjoyment, and Nivritti Marga means the path of renunciation. So the conditioned soul has 2 choices. So there is no scope of anything else. There is only 2 choices. One is you can choose whether you want sense enjoyment, you want to please people around in this world and make them happy and stay back here. That is your choice. Or the second choice is you want to please the Supreme Lord and his devotees and go back, get renounced and go back to Godhead. That is the second choice. So the path of in Bhagavatam also it is explained in many places that the path of sense enjoyment or pravritti marga is very inferior. It lasts only for a very short time as long as the body is there. We saw the Puranjana's case. It didn't last for long. As long as the body exists, it lasts. But on the other hand, the path of nivritti marga, which is the path of sacrifice, considering that Supreme Lord is the final cause of everything and he's superior to everything, if I want to satisfy that Supreme Lord, then that nivritti marga is the best path to choose. But the jiva, again, the conditioned soul must have that intelligence. It should know that the Lord is my supreme well-wisher. So Puranjana missed understanding that above dharma, there is paro dharma. So we have heard in the Srimad Bhagavatam that, Suta Goswami, when he was answering the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya, one of the questions was, the sages asked him to summarize the whole range of revealed scriptures and present the most essential. After going through the entire scriptures, what is the most important thing that a person needs to know? And the sages of Naimisharanya, they were very concerned about the future in Suta Goswami, that after reading the entire scriptures, please let us know what is the most essential part that a fallen person or fallen individuals in this age must know and can easily take up. So then the point of paro dharma. So one is dharma, which will satisfy your artha and kama, but above that is the paro dharma, which is, and the verse which was given there, or and Suta Goswami says that savai pumsan paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaitu kyapratihata yayatma suprasidati. So we all know this, that we have heard this verse many times, and we know that it is bhakti is and apratihata. So it should be the intent of bhakti should be unmotivated, which means there should be purity in the intent, that is unmotivated and uninterrupted. Ahaituki apratihata, which means that uninterrupted. It should be, there should be consistency. Not that, today I chant 16 rounds, tomorrow I do 12 rounds, day after tomorrow I do 20 rounds. Somehow I want to just catch up and compensate and things like that. See, unless we have some extraordinary seva that we are doing, like Janmashtami, most of us are very occupied with sevas. On that day, if by chance, it should not happen because it's the birthday of the Lord or appearance day of the Lord. But in case you miss, then the next day you can compensate because you are very occupied in the seva. That is okay, understandable. But at the same time, that should not become the pattern. So bhakti should be ahaituki apratihata, which means that the intent should be, I want to please the Supreme Lord. That should be the intent. And there should be nothing else that, I want to please 10 people in this temple. No. Or I want to please 10 people in my family. That should not be the intent. The intent is, I want to please the Supreme Lord, and I want, just like how the Supreme Lord is the well-wisher of all living entities, I should also be the well-wisher of all living entities. And it should be consistent. That thought should remain consistent. So, ahaituki and apratihata. So, hence, we understand here by this story of Puranjana, Narada Muni is indirectly telling Prachina Parishad that the goal of your life is not to engage in all these unwanted activities. The best thing to do is do paro dharma, which is ahaituki apratihata, which means practice devotional service with an attitude of purity in the intent and also consistency in your actions. So if you do that, then your life will be successful. This was an indirect message. But somehow towards the end of this particular chapter, also, Prachina Parishad does not understand. And then, Narada Muni starts giving direct instructions. But nevertheless, this is the mercy of the Lord. And also this is the mercy of the devotees of the Lord. And Narada Muni is explaining this for our understanding. So also we see in today's verse, there is, Prabhu, can we quickly go back to the verse? In today's verse, we see that there are two types of processes which are mentioned, and in ISKCON we follow both these processes, which is Bhagavata Vidhi and Pancharatrika Vidhi. Prabhu, will you be able to share the verse on the screen? So in today's verse, we are seeing that there are two types of processes which are followed in ISKCON. One is the Bhagavata Vidhi, and the second one is Pancharatrika Vidhi. And Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that Bhagavata Vidhi is nothing but hearing and chanting about Lord Vishnu. And Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Srila Prabhupada says in the translation that Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, that is Bhagavata Vidhi. Whereas Pancharatrika Vidhi, we can see that there are the other, Prabhu, can you just scroll down? Maybe scroll down a little bit. Yeah, in the Pancharatrika Vidhi, we can see, you have to scroll down further towards the last, you can come to the end actually. Okay, so we see here that in the Pancharatrika Vidhi, it is mentioned that which includes Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam, because a devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narada Muni, and because of this, he has no fear in his old age. So somebody who engages in this Shravanam Kirtanam, that is Bhagavata Vidhi, then there is Pancharatrika Vidhi, which is Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So complete surrender. And when we follow these principles in the footsteps of Narada Muni, then we become fearless, or basically the Kala Kanya, old age, and the Chanda Vega, the factor of time, and Kala Kanya will attack all of us. So this is not just about Puranjana, this is also about all of us. So Kala Kanya will attack us, Chanda Vega will also attack us, but at the time of death, a devotee is not bothered because he knows that his ultimate goal is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. He has no personal motive. Like I said, Paro Dharma is he's always interested in that supreme cause, the supreme Dharma, which is he wants to practice bhakti, which is unmotivated and uninterrupted, which is nothing but he has purity in his intent. The purity is that he wants to serve the Supreme Lord, and he is consistent. Daily he practices it. That is the reason why Srila Prabhupada set up the entire process that we see in ISKCON, starting from 4 a.m. Mangalarti till 8:30 when we end with the Shayanarti. The entire process has been set up so that we do it unmotivatedly and uninterruptedly, daily, so that at the time of death, when we grow old, we have nothing to lose. We have done our complete, we have followed the instructions of our spiritual master, and hence, if the Lord wills, we go back to him, or else we continue our spiritual practices or continue serving the Lord somewhere in any part of the world, whether it's in material world or spiritual world. That's why we call ourselves as the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So by consciousness, we will be purified, and we are ready to do seva at any place, whether it is in the material world or in the spiritual world. We have reached a stage of consciousness where we wouldn't mind doing service for the Lord, and that is very well displayed by Srila Prabhupada, where he went to the West. He taught this to all the Westerners, and even at the time of old age, even on the last day of his life, Srila Prabhupada was reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is an example of a pure devotee. This movement belongs to the pure devotee, and we all should understand from this particular verse what is the goal of our life. Thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please feel free to ask if you have any questions.
Hari Bol. So thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful nectar that you shared today. In fact, you very nicely brought out the background of the conversation that we are seeing, all these verses about Narada Muni and the king. And also you explained the analogy in the allegorical tale. So that was very nice, and how you connected it to the Paro Dharma. So it was really very wonderful. Thank you so much. So we'll now open the discussion to all the devotees who are dialed in here. I request them to please go ahead, unmute, and you can share your reflections, comments, or any questions that you have. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Madhuri. Hare Krishna. That was Pranam.
Yes, Prabhu. Very nicely you have condensed the whole chapter. It was very nice, and about everything, the conclusion part, which I really liked, is where the devotee is not afraid of death because he knows that he's going to go back to Godhead. Thank you for the wonderful lecture, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Madhuri. That was Pranam. Anyone has questions? Any questions?
So any other questions or comments, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Ram Govinda Ratisha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. That was Pranam.
So Nectarian, the flow was going non-stop. Thank you very much.
I hope they understood, because it was not. I think they've not missed.
Yeah. I mean, like Radhani Mataji said, you summarized the chapter so nicely. So wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you once again, devotees, for joining. So on this note, we can conclude. paying obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you once again. Hare Krishna. We can disconnect now.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.